Hi everyone, it's Maddie Brady. We're here to get real about mental health. Stay tuned for some great conversations with some very special guests. Hi everyone, welcome to Get Real. We are here with Mitch Motivates, who is here to talk about long-term sobriety and a little bit about his journey and the trial and tribulations along the way and what he has found helped in the long run.
Thank you for having me, Maddie.
Of course.
Wait, so we're not going to do the real world opener where we stop being polite and start getting real?
We're going to implement that. Mitch came up with the idea to have the real world opening. So next episode, look out. We might have to have that.
Yeah. Well, listen, I always have a lot of ideas, but I'm used to 90% of them being shut down. So you're more than welcome to be like, no, that's a stupid idea. I'm open to taking criticism.
No, I love it. I love coming with the energy you come with and the ideas. It's great. It's absolutely great. And you can tell that it's from somebody that has been through something and was able to get over it. I just feel like the people that are the cheeriest and willing to give back are the people that actually got through things themselves and made it to the other side.
Yeah. So you want me to, maybe I could start by just telling your audience a little bit about my story?
Absolutely. That would be great.
And then if you have any questions, please interrupt me and
absolutely
whatever. The purpose of me, I'm trying to share my experience, strength, and hope to help as many people as possible. Mm-hmm. I struggled with addiction and substance abuse, for all my life. I'm a drug addict in recovery. And I have a little over 14 years sober.
Amazing.
Yeah, about 14 and a half years. Last August was 14. I've been doing this for almost 17 years. I first went to rehab and first got sober in 2006. So, I'm not good at math, but we're coming up on almost 17 years since I first got sober. I mean, that's nuts. Mm-hmm. And I'm still doing it today. And I definitely like to share my journey with as many people as possible. We connected on this that is, if we just help one people, if I'm here and I just help one person get the message, I mean, my job is done. Your job is done for today, and I love that. So I'll just quickly share my story, how I ended up in rehab. Alcohol and drugs, I always had a different relationship than most people with them. Like, I started out casually having sips of my dad's beer or like glasses of wine. But when I had my first beer on my own, it was like a warm, beautiful day on the beach when you're off from work. Like no care in the world, relaxing. It was like a slice of warm apple pie. It was like home. And then when first time I drank and I got drunk, I was like, holy shit. This is amazing. And it just affected me differently. And right away, I never understood the point of drinking. I never understood the point of drinking socially, having sips or having just one. To me, drinking was to get drunk. And I kind of just ran with that. I mean, pretty quickly I was getting drunk before anything I went to, a party, an event. Like even family dinners, I would be like, okay, I'm just gonna get drunk for this, Even school, I would start drinking and get drunk before high school. Like to me, it just made sense to drink to get drunk. I believe that I'm an addict and I'm an alcoholic, so I was just I was waiting for this to happen. So, it progressed pretty quickly. To me, I got really involved with drugs right away. For the simple fact of alcohol was harder to get. Like I was 15, 16 years old. Drug dealers don't card. You don't need to be of a certain age to buy drugs. So it was just easier. So I basically started smoking weed the same way I was drinking. Not just like once in a while on like a Friday night with friends. Every day, multiple times a day, I was getting high. With the drugs, it started to change my personality. I started making new friends and changing things to fit around my lifestyle of using drugs. So I started hanging out with different people, like skipping class. And so that started a really dangerous, I became a drug dealer. And that, like, I was starting to go down the wrong hole. in the wrong way. And one day, one of the people I was smoking weed with was like, let's try cocaine. And as soon as I tried coke, it was off to the races for me. Again, using it the same way as I did the alcohol and the marijuana, I would just do it usually alone, and I would do as much as possible. So consequences started happening. I got arrested graduation night of high school. Most people were celebrating graduating. I was high all day, and then I got arrested that night, and I was handcuffed to a chair when everyone was celebrating high school. So I was really started, like I said, down the wrong path. I got into Indiana University somehow, so I went off to college that year, and that's when my bottom really happened for me. I was doing about an 8 ball of cocaine a day. Obviously, I had no job, so I started to steal and cheat and lie to get the money for the coke, pull any kind of scam you've ever heard of, gift cards, stealing. When you're at college, there's so many books, and the bookstores buy used books, so like I would steal books. You name it, I've done it. It was crazy, and I didn't go to class, and all I was doing was using, and I became a degenerate drug addict pretty quickly. I would wear the same clothes. I didn't really shower. Cocaine makes you super paranoid, so I would like hide in my closet in my dorm room. My roommate in the dorm had moved out because I was such like a disgusting mess, so he asked to transfer, and no one wanted to move in, so I was alone. I was too paranoid to use the bathroom, so I would urinate in water bottles in my dorm room. And I was such a degenerate that I didn't even put the cap on the water bottle, so I had like a desk in the corner of my room with Poland Spring bottles of urine. Like, that's who I was. And I just needed to use every day, and I couldn't stop. I always kept on saying, like, this is going to be my last time. My bottom happened, and I first got sober April of my freshman year of college. I had to go back to Jersey. I'm from North Jersey. For my cousin had an event. She was celebrating her bat mitzvah. So all the family came to Jersey. I eventually ran away from home. The first night I went to my drug dealer's house, reloaded, and then went to some motel room in Jersey somewhere, and was there for a couple days, missed the family event, ran away from home. My parents ended up filing a missing persons report. A couple days later, it's a Sunday, I'm at the motel, I hear a knock on the door. It's like, room service. And it's like 5 police officers. They found me in the motel room, and they brought me to a hospital. My parents came to the hospital, and it was there that I said I had a problem and I needed help. And a week later, I was in rehab, and that was, April of 2006, about a week before my 19th birthday. And that started my journey in sobriety and in recovery.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did your parents have any inkling or know prior to that night?
So around the time that I got arrested, there were I really just didn't care about consequences. Like, nothing was going to slow me down from using. So there were some things like the arrest, obviously. One night, I remember it like it was yesterday. I just again, didn't care about anything except getting drunk, getting high. I was drunk and I was driving, and it was rainy, and all of a sudden I got a flat tire. So just imagine me, I pulled up to my house in Jersey. I was drunk. I remember I had like a 40 on my lap. I was like drinking on the way home. I was heading home from somewhere. It was raining. I had a flat tire, and I told my parents I would be home by like 10. It was 11. And they're just like waiting for me to come home. They did know, but I always had a way to cover it up, and always just said, oh, it was just a phase. It was just a night. Bad luck, So they knew, but not to the extent. And they didn't know that how bad it was that I was using coke. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you were taken to the hospital that night, did you feel in any way almost relieved that you wanted to get help,
Yeah.
or were you in complete denial fighting it?
No, I was relieved. It was a huge thing. I mean, running away from home, coming home just for the family, to go for my cousin and to be there, and then running away. The first thing they said to me is I cried and I said I needed help. And so they were relieved, and then I went to rehab. I went to the Karen Foundation, this wonderful place in Pennsylvania, and I was there for 4 months. And that started my journey in recovery. And that was 2006. Like I said, 17 years ago. I'm still here today. The first 2 years were a lot of back and forth, a lot of like, my body started to feel good, and then I relapsed, and then I got a girlfriend, and then I relapsed, and then I went on a trip out of the country, and no one was around me, and I relapsed. But like I said, I have 14 years now of continuous sobriety. So since August of 2008. I've been sober now. And so my whole journey, my whole story now is my whole adult life is being in recovery.
That's amazing. And I think it's so great that you pointed out earlier you're one of our first guests that really has achieved long-term sobriety.
Yeah.
So you've been through a lot. You've done it all.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you feel like made it stick initially to get that first solid year under your belt?
100. Great question. So right away, it was pretty clear to me that I was different in a way, like that. I looked at more like very black and white. Like it was clear that I was an addict. That if I'm 19 and in rehab, and most people that I grew up with that I knew were like going to college or studying abroad, being in relationships, and I was in rehab. So it was pretty clear to me that I had a problem and I was different in this way that I believe that addiction, I believe it's all the same thing. Addiction, mental illness, substance abuse, it's all the same. I think it's all part of a mental illness. So it was clear that I was different. And I was relieved to get help. But, they say that addiction and mental illness is like a disease that tells you don't have a disease, right? It's the only one that does that. So pretty quickly when I start getting things, then I forget what I did to feel better again. So it is tricky, and that's why it took 3 years to get the first year, because the first 2 years I was relapsing every couple months. And then it took all that to then be like, you know what, it's clear. I thought it was clear, but now it's clear without a shadow of a doubt that I turned from a cucumber to a pickle, right? There's no going back. So it was clear without a shadow of a doubt that I cannot go back to a cucumber. I cannot safely ingest any substance that affects me from the neck up. Usually we say with the exception of caffeine or nicotine or sugar.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel like once you get that first year, and obviously it's different for everyone, but I remember the first year was definitely the hardest.
Yep.
And I feel like when you get to the other side of that year,
yes.
And they say too that confidence is built on our own experiences.
100%.
So if we are able to get to that first year, then you have the confidence in yourself to keep going.
Yes. And it's not like a restart. It's not like restart at square one. Like maybe when I relapsed, if I'm in like a 12-step meeting, I'll restart my day count and be like, look, I have 1 day sober. But I look at it as like still part of the journey, right? It's not like, oh, I'm back to square one. So like I picked up things that I consider such a strong foundation that really helped me out in my first, couple years of sobriety that I still do today. That really helped me out, and I love to talk about them.
Absolutely. Let's hear
the first one is definitely faith, right? I had a very strong foundation of faith early on. I met a rabbi in rehab, and I was given this prayer book, right? I'm religiously Jewish. I'm not super observant, but I'm very a traditional Jew, and I was started to pray since the first night I was in rehab, right? And the faith has kept me till today. And even though I've slipped up, like that helped me get through my first year of sobriety. The second thing that I'd love to share is just have smart feet. And I share about this a lot. I have smart feet, and I realize that maybe I can't really fully trust my thoughts and what like the devil on the shoulder is telling me that I need to do in my life. And I just took it one thing at a time, and I had smart feet. the first year of my sobriety, I got sentenced. Not I felt like I got sentenced to 28 days in rehab, right? So, but then I had smart feet to say, you know what, maybe I should stay here for a bit. I signed up to stay at rehab for their extended program, so I was there for 3 more months, 4 months total. But if I listened to myself, I remember telling my parents, like the third week of rehab, they have like a parents program. So it's like a visiting day. If a visiting day of the family, and they do family programs at Karen. They're just amazing with the family piece. But I said to my parents, I want to live down the shore. My family has a place in Long Beach Island, and I want to go to Ocean County College, which is the community college. So I was about to leave rehab and like live by myself at the beach and go to community college. I had no idea what I was thinking, but I had smart feet, and I just didn't listen to, myself, but I followed the feet, and the next right move was to go to extended care. And then I had smart feet again, and I decided to go to a halfway house in the Poconos. So after I left rehab, I went, and a couple other people I was in rehab with was at the same place. We lived at this guy Scotty's house. He ran the sober living out of his home in Bartonsville, Pennsylvania. So I had smart feet that I needed more care, so I went to this halfway house. Then again, I had smart feet, and I lived with people that I met at the halfway house in an apartment at the Poconos. And I just like kept my circle small and didn't really like listen, like didn't fully trust myself yet, but trusted what other people were telling me. So that's what I kind of meant by have smart feet. And then like a big thing that I still have today is the community. That's another big thing that I took with me out of my first year that I still do. The community of young people, and now it's like adults that I follow that are in recovery in New York City is amazing. And everywhere I went, I had my community, because peer pressure, especially when you're young and sober, even today, it can get to your head. And I could start saying to myself, like, I could convince myself a million different things. But when I have the community of people that are doing the same thing I am, and then that when I was younger, it was, let's be young and sober. And today, it's like, let me be a professional and be sober. You feel almost that when you have the support that you could do anything, So community is another huge piece that I've kept with me. And I just take these things that I've done in the beginning and just throughout my whole journey as the different phases of my recovery kind of like presents itself.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the beginning, you got involved with a lot of helping and going back and helping people in the sober community. Can you describe a little bit about that? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I would say, I'm not going to talk about my personal 12-step program today, but I've ever since I was in rehab, they had an AA meeting, came into that rehab, and they did a service commitment to bring a meeting in the rehab, and that's where I was exposed to 12-step, right? And I live my life today, and I take the principles I learned in my personal recovery into my life, right? And one of the, in the spirit of the 12-step of Alcoholics Anonymous, that, you so freely, give back what was given to you. Like, I live that principle today in all my life. And so in the beginning, it was as simple as, I remember when I was in the Poconos, I would go back to the rehab center and like go visit and like be a strong alumni and represent like what it's like when you get out, and kind of be a mentor to the kids in rehab, kind of give them hope. And then I've always carried that spirit every leg of my recovery. After I was in the Poconos, I went to Rutgers University. They have a program for students in recovery. Again, having smart feet. Again, thinking with my faith. Again, looking for that community. And I was at the Rutgers and in that program for 3 years. And then after that, I was connected with someone who was sober and was working in New York. And that's how I moved to New York. And I knew that the recovery community was so strong here. And then I moved to New York, and now I'm connecting with the recovery community at Rutgers. And I was going back to alumni things and going back to the house. And then when I moved to New York, I started working in recovery. So like every step of the way, I'm always thinking what's best for my recovery. And also, like I said, what you said. How am I going to give back? What am I going to do? Because like my survival is based off sharing my story and my experience, strength, and hope, and giving back. Like, even to this day, like being on this podcast with you, Maddie, like I look at this as my survival. Like being here, hopefully reaching someone who's sitting here identifying with my story, maybe with your story. And maybe they don't go to 12-step, but maybe they do have experience with recovery. And the only way to connect with them is because they stumbled on your Instagram. So like, this is my survival, sharing my story in all forms, you know?
Yeah. And did you eventually start to feel a little bit burnt out? How did it weigh on you emotionally to go back really into the trenches?
Yeah.
And deal with that every single day?
I mean, that's a great question. I'd love to kind of share a little bit about my professional journey and kind of like that really ties into that. So like I said, I moved to New York because I was connected with a job, but that was an office job in public relations. And because I went to that halfway house after I left rehab, I got connected with these guys in New York, and they were doing the same kind of thing that I did in the Poconos, but in New York. And so I started working for a recovery company and working in recovery, working for this, private recovery company. They had these sober livings. So pretty quickly, and getting experience with that, working in recovery and being in recovery really did get a lot. For me, I look at my sobriety and my recovery as a bridge back to life to do whatever I want and be a productive member of society. And my personal recovery is a necessity for me to be able to get that bridge back to life and to be a productive member of society. I'm grateful for it. But then I was also working in recovery, and I worked for about 7 years, and just nonstop 24/7. I did get burnt out, and it is heavy. I always say, my daily battery is only charged up so much. So if I'm constantly being drained by helping other people's problems, I forget to take care of myself. And so there come a point that I had to transition out of working in recovery in order to maintain my personal recovery, in order to fill up my battery for myself. And being selfish can be a good thing. And I've learned self-respect and how being selfish for yourself and self-care are all connected. So that's kind of how I got into, running marathons, the fitness community, I take soul cycle classes. I do fitness trips. I went to Croatia on this trip. It's like a fitness adventure company. I went to Croatia. So I really went through a tough time being in recovery and working in recovery. But that's a gift today because that really helped me grow into the person I am today. That's how I started Mitch Motivates,
Absolutely. I know at least my biggest problem today that I still struggle with is setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. Very challenging for me. And also people pleasing. Those are my big 2 challenges today, because I feel like throughout sobriety and throughout my journey, I've learned one lesson at a time and had to face it head on. Yeah. And I feel like whatever out there is sending me these lessons, it's for a purpose, because I deal with each one in an increment. So I've always had X problem, so I dealt with this, and it just has continued to go. And now at this point in my life, I feel like I'm at the point where I need to address setting boundaries and my people-pleasing issues, which is extremely hard for me. So what is something that really helped you feel less guilty about setting those boundaries?
I've always had mentors in my recovery since I've been sober. And that's the first thing I want to share about having a mentor and having people you look up to. And I've always been attracted to people that have been successful, that are sober, that are doing things with their lives, because that's what I want. I don't want to be someone that's like, be 50 years old, that doesn't have a family, that goes to AA meetings 7 days a week. Like I don't like that goes to the diner on every Friday night, like, and that's like their highlight of their week. Like I want to be someone that because I'm sober and I'm in recovery, I can accomplish anything. So I've always had mentors. And it was one of the first things a mentor said to me when I was in New York is like, you got to do things for you. You know, what are those things that make you happy? And that's how I got into running marathons and got into the fitness community. I would go to a SoulCycle class, and I swear, like, I would go to 6 a.m. And the fact that I could lock my phone away, be in this class with no distraction, and just have some time for Mitch, like, that was amazing. And just, like, doing things for myself has really helped me. And I learned that through the mentorship. Another thing is, like, traveling. When I was at Rutgers, I studied abroad, and it was just like I was amazing that I got to experience the world and be sober and like live in Italy for 4 months. I lived in Florence, Italy. So really traveling and doing. I've just booked a trip to go to Spain in June. I have no plans except I have a round trip ticket to Madrid for a week. So I do stuff like that because I always looking to take care of myself. Another thing that I've always done is volunteering and giving back. Always throughout my recovery, you know, my mom is a breast cancer survivor. I used to do things with breast cancer.
That's amazing.
Now I'm doing a lot with mental health. A big charity that I've been supporting recently is the Release Recovery Foundation. They have a scholarship fund for people that can't afford treatment. And so the past couple years and this coming November when I'm running the marathon again, we have to raise funds for that foundation. So volunteering has been a huge part of that too. And I've just like learning to take care of myself. And again, it comes back to just being a productive, good member of society and just like living these principles that I'm learning from my recovery and taking them into all areas of life.
No, that's beautiful. I feel like I've gotten a lot better over the years. Definitely this year, especially with my move to New York, I've had to be a little bit selfish in some ways. And then I just feel so good. I like to do a lot of things alone. I like to go on long runs by myself, the gym by myself. There's a lot of things that I like my alone time to be able to, when I go into social situations, I feed off of everyone's energy and I love to be a really big presence and really get everything I can out of that social situation. But then to recharge, I really have to take my time by myself and recharge my social battery, recharge myself. And I feel like I need to do a lot of self-reflection, self-talk, all of that to keep myself going.
Yeah.
But that is something that it seems like a reoccurring issue that does pop up, that when I have to say no to someone, that's something, or disappoint someone, not be able to go to something, it's something that weighs on me sometimes, is that guilt. And I definitely feel like at times I've overextended myself to try to please people. And I think really it dates back to being in active addiction. You let so many people down. And I still feel like now sometimes I try to overcompensate for that, to try to be there for every single person. But at the end of the day, you have to be there for yourself.
Absolutely. Look, I keep my circle small, okay? There's this quote that I love. I think it was Drake, but don't quote me. It was some rapper, and he says that there's a reason that a school bus has 50 seats and a Bugatti has 2, right? Like, keep your circle small. And like today, I'm very focused today, and it takes a lot of practice to learn how to say no, to have boundaries. The only thing I can say is it takes practice, and it takes time and patience, and it's like almost everything. Just like the more you do it, the easier it gets. But like, honestly, nothing is evident. I was thinking about this, on the way over here. Nothing is evident where my life is at today than like the past couple days. I'll share what's been going on the past couple days. So first of all, I'm just a productive, reliable member of society. I'm in good standing with my job where I'm a worker among workers. So I started Mitch Motivates after leaving my recovery company, the recovery company that I worked at, and then I started working in plastic surgery for this plastic surgeon friend of mine who's also my mentor today, Dr. Neinstein. So I work for him at Neinstein Plastic Surgery. So it's good that I get to, my day job is in healthcare and I get to help people, but it's a different kind of side of it than addiction and mental health. So I'm a worker among work. So Friday, I have a dog, and the dog was getting surgery, so she was getting a tumor removed. So I was able to, because I'm in good standing with my job, I was able to work from home and take that time. So I'm a productive member at my job. They trust me enough that I could just like week of be like, my dog has to have surgery. I'm gonna be with her. They're like, oh please, anything you need. They sent me a gift. Like I'm just like I'm a worker among workers today. When I was in addiction, I couldn't show up for anything. Mm-hmm. And today, that is a gift. Then, I have a dog. I got her for my 30th birthday. She's my angel. And she had this tumor. And we're still waiting to hear back from the biopsy. But the fact that I'm able to show up, I have a dog. There's food in her bowl and water in her bowl every day. And I'm able to do that. I'm able to, like, get her the help she needs. Show up for that. Make sure she gets the surgery, be there for her recovery. It's just like, it's just amazing that I'm able to be that person because that wasn't me. And I have to be grateful that I'm in the position that I have money in the bank, that I can pay for surgery of my dog when she needs it, that I'm a good dog parent, that is a win for me because when I was using, I couldn't do that kind of stuff. Then my parents are going on vacation. They're going to Florida this week. So they want me to watch their dog. So not only am I a good one dog parent, I have a relationship. I stole money from my family. I was unreliable. I was a degenerate when I was using. And today in sobriety, my family trusts me. And not only that, they rely upon me almost the most to look after their dog. So I have two dogs at my apartment right now that I'm watching. One is in recovery from surgery. My dad came to hang out last night. Again, I used to be a liar, a cheat, a thief. So my dad was over. He came over, dropped off his dog. We had dinner. We hung out. So that's where I'm at today. I'm a productive member of society. I'm sober over 14 years. On my Saturdays, I do things like this and be on podcasts and share my experience, strength, and hope. I'm a worker among workers in good standing. I'm a great dog dad. I'm planning trips to travel the world. I have a great relationship with my family. And I'm just like really happy with my life is today. And it's all because of my sobriety. I had someone in my life once that said, everything I own has an invisible hologram. And it just like, it says like, it's the hologram is a reminder of like everything I own is because I'm sober. Mm-hmm. Everything I have. And for me...
That's good.
Yeah. For me, it's fucking true. I could curse, right? Yeah. For me, I know it's true because I used to sell clothing for money to buy drugs. So these jeans, my shoes, they have an invisible hologram that I see and I look at it and it says, property of your recovery and your sobriety. Or my hologram says, only because of your sobriety. That's what my hologram would say. And it's on everything I own. My apartment, my dog, my car, everything. I want to get back to your boundaries things. I just thought of something good. Like, someone told me also once, think of your wedding in the future. And think, are these people that someone's inviting me to a party on a Friday night or a dinner. Are these people going to be invited to my wedding? If the answer is no, that always gives me the juice to be like, I'm staying home today. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? No one is more important than me in my recovery, and I've really got into a good habit of putting my recovery first with anything. Mm-hmm. And that if I take that attitude into anything with the boundary thing, that really helps me. Definitely. Like I say, I'm tired. Do I need some sleep? Do I need to like stay home and read a book? Or like, do I need to like take a walk with that friend instead of do something else? Because I always think of, is this good for my recovery? And that always works.
That's great. Mm-hmm. And I've heard too, like, you have to put the safety mask on yourself first if you're on an airplane to be able to help other people.
Yes.
And I truly feel like that is the same when it comes to your mental health. If you're not taking care of yourself, how can I go and help others?
Yes. And then also what's really important is, like, I show other people by action. I lead by example. I hate preaching. I don't respond well personally to preaching. Like you said at the beginning, like, I learned through my mistakes that I make on my own, you know. So I don't learn by preaching. So I just, like, try to set the example through my life, and then I share about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm really big on sharing every step of my journey, like sharing, like, and why, and, like, how, and, like, sharing, like I'm speaking to a 6-year-old explaining how to do something, because that's important to me to see that. So that those are big. Like I share, like I like doing podcasts, and I have a goal to be on 10 podcasts this year, because I believe that after COVID we've been so isolated, and I believe that there's so much more to recovery than just 12-step. Even though I'm a believer in 12-step, that people may only see this podcast or listen to this podcast, watch your YouTube channel, watch your Instagram, and that may be the first or only introduction they have to someone that's in recovery. Absolutely. So I want to do even more than 10 if I can, because I want to get my message, the message that I have, out there to try to help people.
And that's why I started this, really, to try to share what happens in recovery as well. Because before, I felt like I was just putting out there's addiction and there's recovery, and you're better in recovery. And although you are better, you continue to get better and better and better. And there's been so many trials and tribulations that I've faced head on in recovery. And I still feel like I'm facing them. Like, I'm able to say today, I do still struggle with people pleasing. I do still struggle with boundaries. I've made it leaps and bounds, but I still have a ways to go. And hopefully a year from now, I'll be like, I absolutely got through all of that and I'm good to go with that, but now I'm working on this. And I hope that I continue to face every issue I have within myself and continue to develop on myself and just get better and better as I go.
I love that. And I'm telling you, maybe we should close with just talking about gratitude.
Absolutely.
Because, like, when you're grateful, it, like, changes your perspective completely. Like, I look at you as, like, someone that's just, like, incredible, that, like, you're this new, and, well, you've been in this journey for a bit, but you're still relatively new, and you have a podcast, like, you have your shit together, you have a great Instagram and social media presence. Like, I'm like, how did you do that? Like, I couldn't keep a job when I had your level of sobriety, you know, like, so it's amazing. So, you know, being grateful and making sure I surround myself with those constant reminders of how far I've gone is the solution to all my problems. I am a very ambitious person. I want a bigger apartment, a nicer car. I want this. I want a vacation home. I want to travel the world. But I just have to slow down. Like, that's not where I'm at in my life right now. But where I'm at in my life is absolutely incredible. The stats are against me. Everything is against me to be where I'm at, to have over 14 years of sobriety. Like, people, like, you don't hear that much about people that have double-digit sobriety because they're not there. They relapse, or even worse. They say jails, institutions, or death, right? Like, you see way more newcomers that have 1, 3, 5, 6, 7 years of sobriety than you see people that have 14, 15, 20 years, right? Because it's not easy. So I have to just, like, always splash cold water in my face every morning that I'm alive, I'm up and I'm sober, that how the fuck have I made it this far? Like, that is a miracle. You know what I mean? It is a miracle to have a job, to have a relationship with my family, to have my dog, to have my apartment, to have everything I have today. So like I'm forever grateful, and I'm trying to give all that back.
Absolutely. And I feel like the main thing we have to remember is it's a marathon, not a sprint. And you truly have to enjoy what you're doing while you're in it. And I feel like I have that mindset with everything. I thought about this while I was on a long run the other day.
Yeah.
I was literally running smiling.
Yeah.
And just looking around, taking in everything around me, having so much fun.
Yeah.
And I realized that when I'm on a longer run, I'm truly enjoying what I'm doing every single step. And the end feels amazing, but that's not even what I'm thinking about when I'm running. I'm just thinking about how great it is, how fortunate, how lucky I am to be able to do that. When I go on a short run, I know I'm doing 20 minutes, something like that. The whole time I'm thinking about the end. I'm just like, can't wait to get to that mark. I'm checking my watch. And I just think it's important to bring that into life, to think about just what we're doing right now. And then eventually it's all going to fall in place. And I've said that before, and it's something that I try to focus on because I'm super ambitious as well. And it does make me feel extra grateful to hear your piece that you said, because a lot of times I think, why am I not here? Why am I not here? And just to be grateful for where we are right now. And that's the only way we're going to move forward, is to be grateful and practice our tools, practice gratitude, and be able to get on to the next day better than yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we're both, as long distance runners, we're both uniquely qualified to say it's a marathon, not a sprint. I feel like that's the name of this episode. It's a marathon, not a sprint. I'm about to run my 7th marathon in November.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're both long distance runners. I love that. But just getting a little bit better every day is all it's about. Have you read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear?
I have not yet.
Amazing book. I read a lot. At Dr. Neinstein's office, he has really taught me to like knowledge. I read like 5-6 books a month, all nonfiction, and I'm always growing. But James Clear in his book gives this analogy, and it's such a good thing about growing, just getting a little bit better every day. And he uses the example of a plane leaving Los Angeles and that takes off and goes to New York, right? And if you change the trajectory of the plane, like the example in his book is like 3%, just a tiny bit, the plane lands in Washington, D.C., not New York. Like, because you're a little bit, and the final destination is not New York, because you've just changed the trajectory a tiny bit of that plane. And it's the same thing with your life, and how I live my life is just focus on getting a little bit better in that marathon every day, and your trajectory is going to be a different place than you originally set out for. Right? Isn't that a beautiful example? I love that example.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really like, too, remembering that, especially coming from a sports background, we're not competing against anyone else. At the end goal is to be better than we were yesterday, be better than we were 10 minutes ago, and then we're doing our job and not get stuck into comparisons and looking what everybody else has, but continuing to focus on ourselves and bettering ourselves every day, and we will eventually get where we want to be.
Well said, Maddie.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and getting real. I really appreciate it. You had so much wisdom to share, especially having 14 years under your belt is massive accomplishment. So congratulations for that. And also, I feel like I even learned things from the single conversation with you. You just have so much wisdom that you're able to pass down to the people that are 1 month in, 5 years in, the people that are really just getting started on this incredible journey. Yeah,
thank you. And just remember, it's cool to talk about mental health here on the Get Real podcast.
It absolutely is.
Thank you, Maddie.
Of course. Thanks for tuning in and getting real with us. Podcast will be posted every other Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube. Please reach out via DM if you want to chat.